Hello everybody. So today we are going to do my top 5 places in Kent. So stay tuned because this has been a video that has been requested on a couple of occasions. So let's get into it and I'll see you on the other side. Come on, let's do it. Hello everybody, welcome back. If you've not seen my channel before, my name's Dan and I run Phoenix History, which is a historical based YouTube channel where we go exploring and we also cover lots of history in between. In this video we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to do my personal top 5 places in Kent. Now I just want to start from the outlet and just say to all of you, if I've missed out any places, that doesn't mean I don't like them. It just means that if I had a top 5, this is my top 5. So, if you want to have a bit of fun beforehand, feel free to write down your own personal top 5 and you can see if they match. More importantly, if you want to have a bit more fun and you know me, or you think you know me, write down what you think my top 5 are before you've actually started watching this video. And you never know. If we match a couple of times, then that's great, isn't it? Hopefully I've done a good job trying to literally give you as many hints as possible on this channel. Right, so let's delve into it. Let's go into my top 5. Come on. Number 5. Number 5 is the only village in Kent that I would definitely say goes into my top 5. In fact, it's actually one of my favourite places in Kent, hence why it's in my top 5. I'm talking about the village of Wye. W-Y-E. So, why do I like Wye? Hands down for me is just the village that encompasses Kent life and the reasons why I like Kent. Now, being from West Kent, I might come at advantage or a disadvantage because I have to travel from one side of the county across. And where Wye is, it's pretty much situated almost slap bang in the middle of the county. So for me, I know that when I drive there, I can take what I refer to as the pretty routes down there, which means I avoid the motorway and I avoid many main roads as possible, and I can just weave in and out those wonderful country roads that we still have. The reasons why I like it, well, it's quite simple for me. It just retains this old-fashioned quality about it, and obviously encompasses it over the Devil's Kneading Trough, pretty much overshadows the whole of that area, and it's wonderful, really. I really like it there because I also like the journey down, like I said to you before. It's this thing that obviously I know that when I drive down there, I know that I'm going to have a nice little drive when I get there, and it means that I can also have a lovely little drive on the way home. The Devil's Kneading Trough, as I sort of mentioned before, is a fantastic piece of landscape and geology, more importantly. You've probably seen many videos that I've covered Wye. I think there's about 3 or 4 videos on this channel where I've sort of covered that area. And the people are just so nice. The pubs are amazing there. There's not actually one bad pub that I pretty much think I've been in all of them now that I would say that are absolutely lovely. The people are so refreshing. And actually, funny enough, I think where Wye really shines is probably in that evening time if you just wanted to go for a drink or a meal in the evening and just absorb that. But if you sort of like went for a walk beforehand, that's probably what I would do, really. My perfect day in Wye would be just to go for a wonderful little walk and time it so that when the night starts drawing, that you can go for that cosy little pub sort of vibe or that food vibe. You can go and then just have these wonderful memories that you can share forever and ever and ever. So there you go, top 5. Number 5 was Wye. Okay, so coming in at number 4 is probably quite an easy one for me to sort of put in because it's a place that I actually probably visit a lot, whether I mean to or that I just have friends or like just basically just because of where it's located, really. And where I'm talking is Rochester. Now, Rochester for me is an interesting place because I prefer Rochester in the daytime. I think most of you will probably agree that Rochester's a strange town, that it only seems to sort of have this wonderful atmosphere pretty much in the daytime, and actually when you go there in the evening it can completely change. It's what I refer to as a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type of town, where you get, in the daytime you get this wonderful atmosphere, this rich history that sort of seems to come alive no matter what season or time of year it is. But actually at night time it's got a very different vibe to it. Obviously Rochester, as you know, is probably one of the most haunted towns in all of Kent, and you can tell why when you go around there as well. Obviously the pubs as well can get a little bit rowdy as well around there. It can sort of turn into a bit of a cowboy type of like town. Should we just sort of say town loosely? As part of the Medway towns. But that's not a bad thing because it gives that whole area atmosphere, and also really just takes you back to that whole side that Rochester's always been the same ever since I was young. And I know obviously with my family who have been there many, many times, The Rochester's always had that Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde sort of like vibe about it, and for that, it's kind of makes it exciting in a strange way. But for me, it's a fantastic area, loads of places to eat and drink, and also it's just a wonderful place if you just want to grab a coffee, really, because there's so many coffee places there that you can kind of get sport for choice. Also, it still retains that alternative culture, which obviously I am alternative, that's my tribe. And I love that whole sort of like idea that it still retains that. Another place that probably for me I prefer going to in the wintertime. In summertime it can be really busy with tourists. You can still get that in wintertime, but definitely in the summertime as well. You also have things like Sweeps Festival, which is wonderful, wonderful, wonderful music festival, but again can be really busy. As much as I sort of like seem to sort of mellow those descriptions out, it is definitely an incredible, incredible place, full of rich, rich history that hopefully, as a recording this, we still haven't finished with just yet. So if you're really into Rochester and you want to know more incredible secretive places in Rochester, stay tuned because we're going to probably do some more videos on it. But that's number 4 in Kent, so Rochester. Let's go on to number 3. Okay, number 3, I'm kind of cheating because I'm kind of amalgamating a couple of places. So forgive me on this one. If you've been writing a list beforehand of places that you think I might like or places that you might like, I'm kind of cheating with this one. I'm kind of putting 2 together. I'm talking about Dungeness and Romney Marsh area. Now, every time I go down to Romney Marsh / going down to Dungeness, I absolutely love that area. In fact, it was very close to picking out to be number 2 on my spots of my top 5 list. The only thing that gives it away is because there just really isn't that much there for anybody who just wants to go exploring. It is pretty much a place filled with nature. And I'm very fortunate enough that I've been down there so many times that I can thoroughly recommend that. This is going to sound really bizarre, but unless you go down there, you'll understand why. It is a place that really is at its best when it is on a really gloomy, gloomy day. Because for some strange reason, the electricity in the air, the spiritualism just sort of comes out. I've been down there on a couple of occasions where I'll probably never forget it. One was on a thunderstorm, which I will never ever forget. Seeing that go across the sea and past the lighthouses, absolutely amazing. But also, I went down there on a foggy, foggy day, and I wasn't driving. My friend at the time was driving, and I'll never forget that drive through and then coming back. It was just really packed full of spiritual energy, and the whole idea of how haunted that whole area can be. As if you didn't know already, there's full of smuggling history down there, and it's not hard to see why with those shingle beaches. Although the sad drawback of all this is kind of a bit silly, really. Why would you put a nuclear power station of Dungeness in your top 5, a former one, should we just sort of say? Well, for me, if you ignore that, it's actually the rest of the history. And in fact, the nuclear power station that's down there kind of adds to it in a strange way. The whole complete quirkiness and dichotomy of like the total oxymoron almost of it. The fact you've got this wonderful nature and the whole regrowth of that whole area stuck next to a power station. It's a bit strange, but you've got to come with me to sort of understand that in my mindset of why I just love that whole area, really. If you haven't been down there, I thoroughly recommend, if you're local to Kent or even probably on the border to East Sussex, you just travel down there and you just go, but don't have any expectations of something that's going to blow your mind. Have the expectation of just how weird and bizarre that whole area actually is. You kind of expect it sometimes. I always felt it was like out of a scene out of a Father Ted episode where there was that famous one where they went on holiday and literally nothing was there. Or that you go onto Father Ted's island. So you just sort of think to yourself, okay, maybe. But I love it. I absolutely love it down there. And like I said, I love it when it's actually probably its most gloomiest. In fact, I was recording this, I was down there quite recently and I absolutely loved it down there. It just still retains that mysticism. And just going for a lovely little walk around there. Obviously, on our channel we've covered a few places there. We've covered obviously the sound mirrors at Denge, which is around the corner. We've covered a couple of other things down there as well, which was obviously a couple of those abandoned stations or formerly abandoned stations down there as well at Lydd. And also we've done the Romney Marsh churches, bar one, as of recording this, the old former ruined churches of Romney Marsh, and I just love that whole area. I cannot speak highly of it. Even though there's nothing there, there kind of is everything there as well at the same time. There we go. So that was my number 3. Let's go on to number two. So my number two place in all of Kent. Well, do you know what? With this one, it's kind of strange. I've been speaking to a few people, and I think they'd all pretty much, if you lived in Kent, you would say this would always be in your top five, no matter what number it would be. And that's quite refreshing for me because it means actually it's a place that just sort of seems to sort of fit with a lot of people and resonate with a lot of people. Where am I talking? I'm talking about Whitstable. Whitstable for me is just the ultimate sort of seaside retreat that you can have in Kent. It's not too busy sometimes, although it can vary, to be honest. Every time I've been down there it has been quite busy, but not too overbearing. That's mostly in the high street. But the people are wonderful. The pubs are absolutely fantastic. I mean, the pubs have got this rich history that is sort of still there. You've got an amazing historical culture down there as well. They really enjoy the history. And it's also a place where uni students and college students, mostly from Canterbury, will just come down to Whitstable as well. So it's got a really unusual sort of vibe about it where it's young meets old down there. It's quite nice to sort of see. Every time I've been down there, I've not encountered one single rude person. Should we just politely say everybody's been really nice down there. Plenty of places to park, and also you can do your classic walk from Whitstable to Tankerton if you needed to, or going across the opposite side, even from pretty much from Pegwell Bay if you wanted to, going through to Ham Bay, Sea Salter area. I cannot talk more highly of Whitstable for just the sheer obvious nature of how beautiful it actually is, and the fact that it's a very self-contained area really within itself. I think a lot of people could sort of agree with that. And it's still kept that rich fishing history in that community, which is still down there. You can actually explore and see for yourselves when you go down there, which I love, the fact you can still retain that. To me, it feels sometimes when I've been down there very reminiscent of those Cornish fishing villages like Brixham, for example. But hey, that's Whitstable, and that's in my number 2 of my top 5 places in Kent. Just go down there, enjoy it. I really recommend, if you've never been to Whitstable before, just go down there. I think you're going to really like it. And you can also catch a train down there. All these places you can pretty much catch a train, I think, bar Dungeness. But yeah, that's, again, that adds to the mysticism of that place. But we'll head on to number 1 now. Let's go. Okay, so coming in at number 1 is a place which is kind of strange for me because it's a place that I have never ever had a bad memory going down there, and it really is my number 1 place, although it also goes against everything that I like, which is I'm not really a fan of busy places, which is why obviously in my younger days I would spend a lot of time in London and Brighton, and I think I kind of knocked that out of my system of busy places. And yeah, actually at that same time I was here. And where am I talking? I'm talking about Canterbury, the famous city. The famous city in Kent that we cannot ignore because of its wonderful cathedral and its rich history. That's probably why it's number 1 for me. No, actually the main reason why it's number 1 for me is because it is just a beautiful place. Everybody down there is absolutely, I mean this, the most nicest people you can meet. That's in my opinion, and that's the people I've seen. I've not met a bad person down there at all. Loads of places to park, and you can also make your own adventures down there. You can get lost in the wonderful little alleyways. You can explore Canterbury Castle, although as of recording this, that ruin is still under maintenance. But you can still walk around the former sort of like area of the gardens. You can also go to obviously Canterbury Cathedral, the Canterbury Tales, and there's so many more. In fact, I think, well, I know I've been to every single place in Canterbury, museums and monuments and tourist attractions. I think I've pretty much been to every single one of them. It's just such a rich place. I mean, I've spent so much time down there in my younger years going down there that actually on a recent visit I was still blown away by the atmosphere of it. It was just so busy and vibrant, but in a manageable way that you didn't feel restricted. Obviously it's full of tourism as well, so you understand there's going to be a rich culture down there, and it's predominantly now these days quite a young person's place to go. So obviously from somebody from my age, it's kind of still feels like I'm a little bit old to go down there now, but you can still go to some incredibly cool alternative pubs and places that still hang on to that wonderful, wonderful old vibe that I used to feel quite familiar with. For food, you pretty much sport for choice. And like I said to you before, parking is really easy down there. There's so many places to park. You can debate whether it's expensive or not, and I think actually if you chose well, you could actually get a few places down there that were relatively cheap to park. You can also catch a train down there as well, and it really just sums up Kent for me. it really retains that medieval sort of vibe to it. The whole reasoning behind why that city was pretty much placed in the first place, the fact of where it's situated in Kent, and it really just symbolises for me what it's like to be in that county. It seems to be the central focal point for a lot of people to come down into. The nightlife down there, well, for me, it's incredible. These days, in my old age, I don't really go out too much these days to do nightlife, but when I do, I'd go into Canterbury. And in fact, one of the last memories I had a few years ago was probably one of my best memories that I had for a long time, going into Canterbury. And I didn't feel old, because I was with people the same age as me, so it probably felt a bit better. But it was fantastic, and it was really wonderful, and a really great time down there. So that's number one for me. What's your number one? What do you think are your top 5 places in Kent? Feel free to like the video down below and stay tuned, because I'm going to be covering all the home counties, because they're the home counties that I'm really familiar with, and maybe some other unusual places that I've explored over my many years of exploring and going out on tours and gigs when I was a former musician as well. And I'd like to sort of like just put some of those top 5 things out there for all of you. So stay tuned. But it just felt fitting today to do my top 5 in the county that I grew up in, and the county that I still love and hold true to, the county of Kent. Like I said before, if I've missed out a few places that needed to be put in, that's not because they weren't necessarily bad places. I just didn't put into my initial top 5 of my own personal top 5. So anyway, much love to all of you out there. Thank you so much for enlightening and just in being entertained by this wonderful little mini video. Stay tuned, and if you're ever in Kent, go down to these places, check them out. Just put a like down in my video and just obviously spread the word of the channel. You know the drill by now anyway. So any more words of Phoenix history, thank you so much for coming along with me, and I'll see you all very soon. Ready? Come on in. Kapow.